Well, to be intellectually honest, why are you denying all of the mainstream reporting about who was actually running the Biden White House?
That's a change,
including reporting.
You were just saying that this.
Never in a million years did I think we would be talking about Autopen signatures, but here we are. In this video, we will be going over the most recent meltdowns, and they're good ones, talking about Autopen signatures, specifically whether or not Joe Biden was even aware of what was happening behind the scenes with these Autopen signatures. Now, before we start the video, please like the video. It's the #1 way you can help this channel, and it helps others see the videos as well. Here we go.
Has been involved in. This is the most important point. It's not just that Joe Biden used the autopen. It's that he didn't know it. He was not briefed on it. He was not aware of it. He did not approve it. He was not mentally aware of what the government was doing.
If we're talking about the legality of something signed with an autopen or not, I'm just trying to figure out if there's anything President Trump signed.
The key point is.
Okay, here's what's going on, and then we will get to Donald Trump's statement on all of this because it's rather interesting. Essentially, it's not illegal to use an autopen if you are a president, believe it or not. Now, the question is, did Joe Biden have any knowledge of people using the autopen and his name to sign off on policies or sign off on pardons?
It looked like we had an autopen for a president, and we would have been better off if we had, probably. But it looks to me like, you know, that's a big subject. I'm sure you won't ask about that, but the whole subject of autopen, did he know what he was doing? Did he authorize it? Or is this somebody in an office, maybe a radical left lunatic, just signing whatever that person wants? That's not what it's all about. I never use it. I mean, we may use it as an example to send some young person a letter, because it's nice, you know, we get thousands and thousands of letters and letters of support for young people, for people that aren't feeling well, etc. But to sign pardons and all of the things that he signed with an autopen is disgraceful.
Now, here's where things get interesting. One of the people that Joe Biden pardoned actually had something to say about all of the statements Donald Trump was saying.
Obsessed about it. So my reaction to him is like, you know what? Then bring it. Like, stop talking about it. Stop being all verbose. Stop pretending like you're tough. Bring the charges then if you really want to do it, because we will crush you in court and it'll make me 3 times more effective against you. Look, honestly, Jake, I'm ready to move on too. But if he wants to keep bringing it up, bring it up or be quiet. That's how I feel.
Have attorneys here at the White House told President Trump that he has the legal authority to undo a pardon simply because it was signed by autopen, as he said?
The president was begging the question that I think a lot of journalists in this room should be asking about whether or not the former president of the United States, who I think we can all finally agree was cognitively impaired. I know it took people some time to finally admit that, but we all know that to be true, as evidenced by his disastrous debate performance against President Trump during the campaign. I digress on that. But the president was raising the point that did the president even know about these pardons? Was his legal signature used without his consent or knowledge? And that's not just the president or me raising those questions, Caitlin. According to the New York Post, there are Biden officials from the previous White House who raised those questions and wondered if the president was even consulted about his legally binding signature being signed onto documents. And so I think it's a question that everybody in this room should be looking into, because certainly that would propose perhaps criminal or illegal behavior if staff members were signing the President of the United States autograph without his consent.
Biden is on the record talking about issuing preemptive pardons to these people.
But was he aware of his signature being used on every single pardon? That's a question you should ask the.
Now, this is amazing. You have a chance to win a Cybertruck and $30,000 cash because of my amazing sponsor, 1775 Coffee Company. Now, I sign off on this company legitimately, not with an autopen, because they actually have good coffee. With an 85+ cupping score, this means they are specialty grade. They're not just another regular coffee company. I will put their link in my pinned comment and bio for you guys. Now, I'm going to save you 15% off if you use my promo code T-SPLY, all capital letters, T-SPLY, at 1775coffee.com. Go check out their dark roast coffee, their medium roast, but also go check out their Vitality Mushroom Blend, which is packed with lion's mane mushroom. This stuff is proven to help cognitive function. But the really cool part is, for every dollar spent, you have the chance to win a Cybertruck and $30,000 cash at 1775coffee.com. And again, use my promo code T-SPLY for 15% off. Thank you, 1775 Coffee. So just to give you a little more context, basically Joe Biden, as you guys are aware, pardoned some people. Now Donald Trump is saying, look, all of these people who investigated me, I know they were pardoned, but the question is, are they legitimately pardoned, or were there people behind the scenes who took the Autopen and signed that signature with the Autopen and Joe Biden did not know about it? That is pretty much the position from the Trump administration, as you just saw.
Would say on the Biden pardons, they didn't go through the normal process. They didn't go through the DOJ. You've been talking about normal process. They did not.
That's true of Trump's pardons too.
Yeah. Well,
Scott.
I know, but no one's alleging that he had a device sign them and he wasn't aware of it.
Scott, as we've established,
I had a point
since
to make.
2005, it has been established the president can use Autopen. It doesn't change anything.
But
also, Trump didn't go through a process either, and that's.
I need to stop here real quick to point out the simple observation, and I know you guys are seeing it too. There seems to be this disconnect from the Democrat left-leaning side talking about the legality of an Autopen, but then on the Republican side, we're like, hold on, we're not talking about the Autopen. We're talking about whether or not Joe Biden knew about using the Autopen from somebody who's not Joe Biden.
That's not required. It's a constitutional ability.
I know that, but because it didn't go through a process and it was his own family and it was apparently handled by a very small number of people in the White House, these pardons probably have less visibility than any pardons in modern history.
This is also referring to the January 6th committee members, not the family.
But they didn't run any of this through DOJ. So at the end,
is that suddenly an issue now?
Well, at the end of the Biden,
any pardons by DOJ before he at the end of the Biden.
So look, I need to point this out because I'm sure a lot of people forgot. Joe Biden was pardoning people on Inauguration Day and doing these preemptive pardons just in case Donald Trump went after, Joe Biden's people. So I just want to point that out. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm just reminding people Joe Biden was pardoning, certain members of his cabinet and family members at the very last second.
Biden administration, legitimate questions have been asked about who was running the White House and who was exercising the authority of the office of the president. These are not illegitimate questions.
Hold on. I think you have to be fair about it. If you say that it's a problem to not run this by DOJ, it's got to be a problem to not run other
little transparency.
He pardoned 1,600 January 6th convicted January 6th rioters, including people who assaulted
and talked about doing it for months.
And but it didn't go.
There's no question that some unnamed family member did it on his behalf. We don't know that about Biden.
Just to be intellectually honest, you would also have to say that should have gone through a process, and it did not.
Well, to be intellectually honest, why are you denying all of the mainstream reporting about who was actually running the Biden White House?
That's a change,
including reporting.
And look, Scott Jennings might be the only person allowed in the news to sort of almost make fun of his own organization that, look, you guys are hating on me for asking questions about Joe Biden. Our own news organization was questioning the cognitive ability and questioning Joe Biden in general. And I'm not trying to be harsh on Joe Biden. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just simply stating what the reports are and what Scott Jennings is saying. So you can leave your opinions down below how you feel about these arguments. But I'm trying to point out, again, there seems to be this disconnect of, hey, why are you talking about the Autopen? And then really dismissing what CNN was even talking about as far as who's really running the White House behind the scenes. And we might have some questions if Joe Biden is really hands-on everything. Now, just to give you guys some evidence on whether or not Joe Biden knew what was going on, if you are unaware, Lloyd Austin, the Secretary of Defense, He was in the hospital running missions and overseeing missions in a command control center, basically, and Joe Biden had no idea. This is when all of a sudden we were sending aircraft carriers and other boats into the Middle East to take care of the opposition forces. So again, I'm just pointing out, this has been heavily reported and detailed that there are questions on if Joe Biden actually knows what's going on as far as certain organizations or members in the White House, you know, who he's supposed to be in charge of.
They are all, I have to say, Democrats, call your office. You know, we're March Madness times. Terrible, 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 to quote the great Charles Barkley. View Democratic Party favorably. CNN SRS, look at this, 29%. NBC News, you want to go lower than that? How about 27%? Both are record lows. The lowest going back to 1992 in CNN polling, the lowest going back on record to 1990 in NBC News polling. The majority of Americans hold an unfavorable or negative view of the Democratic Party at this point. All I can say is I'm a big fan of the oldies, so I'm going to quote Chubby Checker, how low can you go?
Now, the reason why I'm showing you that clip is because I want to show you that Trump right now has a lot of momentum. And if there's one thing Donald Trump will always have in his back pocket as far as making Democrats look bad, is bringing up the fact that some people must have been lying about Joe Biden, because all of a sudden Joe Biden was running for president and then he got thrown under the bus and Kamala Harris was going to be the next president. Donald Trump's administration and Donald Trump know this trick will always work, especially now when the numbers are so low for Democrats.
And I just want to know from you, has President Trump ever used an auto pen to sign official documents, either in his first term or since he took office a second time?
Well, I've seen President Trump hand sign every executive order my whole time, and every part.
Have you ever seen him use an auto pen?
For him. But more, President Trump signs every single critical government function document. But here's the more important point about that, even more important. The more important point is that President Trump personally directs every single federal government policy.
Right, but has
President
he ever
Trump
signed anything with an auto pen?
Okay, so I figured you might actually want to see what Donald Trump had to say specifically about the pardons and Joe Biden. The pardons that Sleepy Joe Biden gave to the Unselect Committee of Political Thugs and many others are hereby declared void, vacant, and of no further force or effect because of the fact that they were done by Autopen. In other words, Joe Biden did not sign them, but more importantly, he did not know anything about them. The necessary pardoning documents were not explained to or approved by Joe Biden. He knew nothing about them, and the people that did may have committed a crime.
You have criticized President Biden for using Autopen in the last few days. Have you yourself ever used Autopen, sir?
Yeah, only for very unimportant papers. And I don't call them unimportant. If you do letters where people write in and, you know, they'd love to have a response, or we'll write responses, and I'll sign them whenever I can. But when I can't, I, you know, would use an Autopen. But to use them for what they've used them for is terrible.
Yes, sir. And when you signed the CR,
Who are you with?
Sir, I'm with NBC News.
Oh, that's the same one. I don't want to talk to NBC anymore. I think you're so discredited.
Now, I know this is about Autopens and Joe Biden, but Joe Biden being a Democrat, Democratic president, I want to show you guys an update of what's going on behind the scenes with the Democratic Party, how they're almost in shambles to the point where it's actually embarrassing. But again, Donald Trump, you know, asking questions, sort of stirring the pot a little bit. This is another bad look for Democrats, bringing up the past and then verifying even today, a lot of Democrats don't even know who their own leadership is or what direction to take.
How do you reform yourself, though, to be more in touch with the everyday American person, like you say?
Well, I'll tell you what, we've become a party of people who preach down to others, you know, who scold them, who say, if you don't agree with me, you're not only wrong, but you're a bad person. I mean, I think all of us have heard that attitude from many national Democrats in the past couple years. So I think we need to stop preaching and start listening. Start meeting Americans where they are. Don't take these minority positions on cultural issues and say, hey, if you don't meet this strict liberal litmus test, then you're not even a Democrat. You know, when I questioned whether we should at least just have a debate about rules for sports, whether transgender women should compete on the same level as on girls' sports teams. I got told by people, you're not even a Democrat. Well, that's the problem with our party. You can't be a majority party if you don't accept a majority of views. It happens on this particular issue. 80% of Americans disagree with this liberal litmus test, a checkbox for Democrats on this view. So we've got to be a lot smarter in listening to Americans. My job is to represent Americans, not tell them what to think, but actually represent their interests in Congress. And I think if more Democrats took that approach, took that view, we'd be much more successful as a party.
It's interesting too, because as you well know, Governor Newsom came around to your view on that particular issue.
And I'll tell you what, I've heard from so many colleagues behind the scenes. You're right, Seth. You're right. Thank you I wrote a big op-ed in the Washington Post about this. I totally agree with you. But they all say it whispering because they're so afraid to say it out in public lest they be accosted by, the liberal left in our party.
Again, I want to remind you guys, the levels are so low right now for favorability and approval for Democrats that even merely bringing up a speculation is still bad news for Democrats. And again, in my personal opinion, I truly think the Trump administration knows exactly what they're doing, and they're really good at discrediting Democrats as far as pointing out that we all have questions whether or not you guys knew if Joe Biden was using the Autopen or if he didn't know he was using the Autopen. Again, a lot of this, as you saw, was speculation and begging the question that is straight from the Trump administration. So, if you are still watching this video, I really, really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for being here. God bless you. Thank you for being a part of the conversation, and we'll see you guys later.